What's up, Hardly Typical Podcast family? We are back and it is season 4. I know you missed us and we missed you too. Dr. Lee, how are you doing? How has your break been from recording? How are the League 3?
Listen, it's been busy. But I'm glad to be back. I missed this. I missed our audience.
Yes.
I missed our discussion. So I am excited about season 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are the kiddos before we get started? Because it's been a while since people have heard any Lead 3 stories. So how's that going? I know school is kind of getting back into season for you all. So how are things going?
We're back in the swing of things. So the Lead 3 are full steam ahead, currently having extracurricular activities every day.
Yeah.
So the twins have decided one wants to be a gymnast and go to the Olympics. The other wants to be a ninja.
Hey, that's a great profession.
I mean, so what that ends up having us do is every day of the week, we have something. So we've got gymnastics on Monday. We've got swim on Tuesday. We've got karate on Wednesday. We've got nothing on Thursday. Well, actually, my son has appointments on Thursday. So Thursday's his day. He has 3 appointments every Thursday. And then Friday we have dance.
Okay.
Their karate teacher just told me, they can come 5 days a week to really build. And I was like, so we're staying busy over here.
Okay. No, they didn't say you can come 5 days a week in front of the girls.
Oh my goodness. I looked at her and I said, you better not. She was like, oh, I don't want to come 5 days. I said, oh, I'm glad we agreed. She was like, 5 is too much. It's too much. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. It is. You're right.
Yeah. You can only do so much ninja.
Exactly. Ninjas need rest too. Okay.
Exactly.
So
you don't want to wear yourself out.
Definitely don't. No. How are things with you? How are things in the Hardwick home?
We're good, man. We're back in the swing of things. I think we start school probably a week before you guys do up here in Georgia. So we've been in the routine for, I think, almost 3 weeks now.
Oh, okay.
Although they start school on a Friday, which I don't know why, but I heard is because they want to give them that day to kind of see their friends and kind of get all their energy out and then give them the weekend and then, come back. So it's not a full week when they start back. So we're maybe like a week and a half ahead of you guys, but they're back in the swing of things. We're doing activities too. Middle son is still doing tennis. But that actually never really stopped with school, because we give him private lessons, and youngest son is doing basketball year round, but he's also trying out for the football team in middle school. So and then the oldest son is entering his 3rd year in school, so in college. So we are busy just like y'all. So, and we know there's a lot of parents out there, y'all are getting back into the swing of things too.
Yeah.
Listen, we're praying for y'all because we know the grind is real.
It is.
Getting back into, I am dealing with allergies. I think we had this conversation before about like allergies and the pollen, and you told me before that you guys don't really have. Yeah, so we're kind of in Georgia. We're in what we call false fall.
Okay.
Where it starts to cool off a little bit and make you think that fall is coming, and then a week later it goes back up to high 80s.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, but what ends up happening is that now all of the pollen and stuff is starting to come out. So all the plants, and I'm dealing with allergies. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. But other words, we're doing pretty good, man. Glad to be back. I missed our time recording, so I'm excited for season 4. We got some exciting things planned for this season.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm going to say, let's dive right in. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's do it.
So I saw a recent news story, maybe a week or so ago, about a famous R&B artist who was recently diagnosed with autism. Okay. Some of you all may have heard of this, and her name is Chrisette Michele. Chrisette Michele came out and shared on her, I think it was her X account or Twitter. Twitter is X now, right? X account.
Yeah.
That she had been diagnosed, and she used the label that she had been, that they had called her severely autistic.
I saw that.
You saw that? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. just a little bit with language and how language kind of shapes how we see autism, but also how the world responds to autism. So when we use terms like severe or profound and we use it loosely or inconsistently, I'm of the opinion that it can create confusion. I don't know. What do you all think? I think it can impact access to how resources are distributed, how resources are received, and it can unintentionally silence those who have higher support needs. So I'm not questioning her experience. By no means am I questioning her experience, nor am I questioning her diagnosis. But I will say I want to unpack how the language was used, how that language can shape understanding, especially when you have a platform. Can we talk about that? Because here's the thing. I think 1 in 5 autistic adults are diagnosed after 18. So this isn't a rarity. This isn't an uncommon story. This is pretty common now. But we want to make sure that we are handling it with integrity, and that we are really honoring the community. So we gotta talk about this.
Yeah. So I did see that.
Okay.
I will say that I also did see where she kind of got drugged on social media and issued an apology, which, some people were satisfied with, some people weren't. But, she apologized for using that term. Were you
satisfied with her apology?
You know what? I was okay with it, because the thing I want to talk about is the diagnostic process and the use of the label severe or profound seems to have been given to her by the diagnostician whoever diagnosed her. And so I don't know, for her, being someone coming into this knowledge and coming into this community, that she had the awareness to know that perhaps could be, a bit misleading. And so, and I can say that as someone who was diagnosed as an adult. I was diagnosed, most people know my story. I was diagnosed at age 36. And, coming into it, there's a lot that you don't know, and you're quickly trying to become an expert on autism because you didn't grow up with, appointments and therapies and language and all these different things. And so I'll just say that I'm not excusing and I'm not in defense for or against. I'm just saying that I don't know that she is all the way aware of, the language that is used within the autism community and the disability community and the why, because you're kind of
I can see that
entering into it being a novice, really.
Yeah.
And just
it
because
seems like it had recently happened. So she was sharing, and even in her apology, she said, I'm going to work on maybe not oversharing, not sharing so much. It didn't really read to me as an apology. It almost read to me like I shouldn't have told you all.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair enough. Absolutely. Again, I'm not negating her diagnosis or anything like that. But I think the language is important. I think the language is important because it matters. It matters in support. It matters in how people are perceived. And even I think a couple weeks back, we were talking about, in season 3 maybe, we spoke about, what's that guy's name? Robert Kennedy Jr.? Is that his name?
RFK.
He said something along the lines of there are no 60-year-old autistic people, and autism is ruining families, and autism is and he said some things. And I saw a lot of people saying, no, it's not. I can drive. He said autistic people don't have license. That's what he said. So autistic people aren't driving. And there were a lot of people on the internet that were saying, I can drive. I pay taxes. I know elders with autism. And I think what we do sometimes when we look at it from our perspective alone, which is what I think she did, is we unintentionally silence an entire population. I'm going to say this, and it's very controversial. Don't come for me, but you might. It's okay.
No. They'll have to come through me first.
Is autism ruining families? Possibly. But let's break it down. Is it autism itself? No. It is, however, lack of adequate health care, lack of support. With dysregulated sleep schedules, you're tired, mom's tired, dad's tired, caregiver's tired. Are they snapping on each other? Probably, because they're both exhausted. Is that affecting their health? If they're not getting adequate sleep? Absolutely. Is the divorce rate among parents with a disabled child higher? Last I checked, it was. Yeah. So is it fair for him to make it a blanketed statement? No. But to say it's not ruining families, it's not, is totally and completely ignoring the families who are being severely impacted by their disability, their child's disability, the lack of support, the lack of accommodations, the lack of resources. That's a very real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually listening to someone talk about that recently, and this is just kind of a side, but we're just talking about, since I'm a disability theologian, he's talking about disability theology and how much of it can tend to do exactly what you say, where we celebrate. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, you celebrate in disability, and then in particular in the autism community, all the people saying, I can drive, I can do all the things that he said that autistic people can't do, and how just even like the neurodiversity movement. And I think all those things are great. One of the things that I say to people is you have to assess why these movements and why the language is being used in a way that tries to highlight another side of the spectrum. Like, where did that come from? So, like, for example, for her, again, I don't know that she knows. And I could just say that as someone who was diagnosed with what was formerly called Asperger's. Much of my challenges are social. Always been that way. I'm much more confident in being able to navigate things now. But to be honest with you, most of the places I go, I'm comfortable with. Like, I go to church. I go to get cancer treatment. I go to conferences that are about disability where I know everybody. So those are all comfortable environments. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but what I think happens is that some of these uses of language are what I saw coming in my first couple of years after being diagnosed and sort of navigating the autism community and the minefield that sometimes it can be. I saw people using language to validate their diagnosis because their challenges were not so apparent. And in order to feel like it was valid, because I struggle in my own way, I'm going to use terms that may be traditionally associated with people who are non-speaking or, have other challenges. And so I don't know that that's okay. I'm just saying that that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that. Now, I think one of the things that, as we talk about language that could be helpful, is for us to sort of talk about or work through, like, what are the ways in which autism is or should be diagnosed? Because here's the thing. I have always loathed the fact that there wasn't like a universal consistent way of, labeling it. Like, we know what some of the basic criteria are, but up until recently, there was no like level 1, level 2, level 3 in sort of these attempts to sort of try to help people understand what the support needs are of the individual.
And I
So it
think
was
that's
kind
gonna
of
be
like the Wild Wild
challenging.
West.
Yeah. I think it's going to be challenging because autism is one of the only disabilities that I know of where you can diagnose yourself. There may be more I'm not aware of, but autism is the only diagnosis that I am aware of where a self-diagnosis is considered valid. So that makes it even harder.
Yeah.
When you're trying to decide what is severe, what is profound, what does that look like?
Yeah.
I know what my definition would be. I know, and mine is based on clinicians or even the ADOS. I know some of our listeners would definitely be familiar with the ADOS test that clinicians use. But I think that self-diagnosis piece kind of makes that a little bit tricky.
Yeah. So, okay. So I want to come back to that, but you said your definition is different. And so we know that when she came out and self-disclosed, And that's a whole other conversation about when is it okay to disclose. She did use the term severe. Again, I think it was a label that was given to her.
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking, based on what appears to be your support needs, we wouldn't categorize you as severe. So I do want to get your definition, your understanding, because like you said, when you talk about self-diagnosis, you talk about, there's a number of different practitioners you could diagnose. And that's always been sort of my challenge with it is it's not a universal way of defining. So I want to hear your definition of severe. I think I know what it is, but I do want to hear.
Just throw me out there. Okay, buddy, let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat.
So I'm going to say, and I'm going to use different language, but I'm going to say based on the ADOS that gives you a level 1, level 2, or level 3, I would say level 1 is low support needs.
Okay.
I may need some assistance, but with guidance can get through the day without each step of my day being written out for me. There may be some social cues I don't get, but I can feed myself, dress myself. I can go to school. I may need a bit more assistance with school, but for the most part, I'm independent. I think that's a level 1. Level 1 is a level of independence with challenges. I think level 2 is a mid where you may need therapies to assist you in getting on task and accomplishing the task at hand. And that comes with repetition, whether it be speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy. There's so many different therapies out there. And then I think there's a level 3. I think level 3 is what you would consider severe or profound. I think those two words are used interchangeably. I don't know if one is worse than the other or one is better than the other. I don't know the ranking of severe versus profound. I'm currently using them interchangeably. But I would say a level 3 is someone who cannot get through the day without significant assistance. This is high support needs persons. They cannot. These are people who need assistance with dressing, brushing their teeth, eating, safety. They may or may not know danger, eloping. That's a level 3 for me. These are people who need consistent and constant care. When I think of severe or profound autism, that's what I think of. These are not people who are married with children and degrees.
And certainly not music stars.
Certainly not able to hold a job or a successful career.
So
that is what I would say.
We're talking people who are less likely to be able to live independently.
Yes. These are people who would most likely live dependent the rest of their lives.
Yeah. I guess I should have said they're the least likely group to be able to live independently. Yeah. So like when I was diagnosed, none of those things were around, right? So there was no level 1, level 2, level 3. It sort of helped me a little bit to explain like what my needs are. But again, most of it was social. I have had the benefit of sort of insulating myself. I don't know if that's a good thing. I think COVID kind of forced me into only going to certain environments where I've developed a level of comfort.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people will not see the challenges that I have socially because I only go to places where I'm not challenged. And it talks about that in the DSM about, you usually don't see it until the social demands exceed your capacity, right? Yeah. That's me. Like I have very rarely over the last several years placed myself in environments where the social demand exceeds my capacity. So,
okay, fair.
I don't say that.
The great thing about that, Lamar, is you have the capacity to choose that.
Right.
There are people who have severe or profound autism, are often exposed to environments continuously that overstimulate them, but they don't have the ability to articulate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can't necessarily pick and choose in a way that other abilities can.
Yeah, you're right. And I, we talked about this offline a long time ago. I am not the person who tries to make all things equal when it comes to autism.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Absolutely.
I have never been comfortable with that simply because, listen, I am much better navigating things. The person who diagnosed me, I stayed and did therapy with her for 2 years. So I really developed tools and got refreshers and got, again, I think COVID pushed me to a place where and then, once I was diagnosed with cancer, it was basically, I'm really only going a few places anyway. So yes, I can choose that. I think the conditions that I was forced into also kind of chose that for me. But I will always say that I'm not the autistic adult who feels the need to make all things equal, because I don't think it is. I think there's a reality that there are people who have higher support needs than I have. Like, I need help with things like my wife will make appointments for me because I have trouble talking on the phone to strangers. Like, I have a lot of anxiety about that.
Okay.
I've gotten better at that over the years, but for most of our marriage, she would make my doctor's appointments for me. Anything that required being on the phone, she would do. Things that were, let's say, things that I could not predict, she would address those things. So, for example, like the way that we even split up paying bills, like I would take all the things that were fixed numbers because I couldn't handle stuff like utilities. Yeah,
wow,
I
understand.
couldn't handle the unpredictability of things like utilities and groceries, and like, no, give me the mortgage, give me the phone bill, give me something that's the same number because it was very anxiety provoking. And I just tended to not be able to balance a checkbook or balance our finances because I just couldn't do it executive functioning wise. So those are just little things like, yeah, I needed support with that, but like you said, I could choose, and I'm very aware of where I stand and not feeling the need to label what I struggle with as severe. Now, it might be really challenging for me, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm still able to live independently. And so I think that's important.
Yeah.
That may be impossible for others, and I'm okay with saying that. I'm okay with saying that. Yeah, I have some challenges, but in the grand scheme of all things autism, it is not the same, and I'm okay with saying that. And so I think, the language that we use.
Definitely. That's definitely why language is so important, because I think if we're not careful, we will label autism as quirky geniuses or, for lack of a better word, buttholes. And I say that because you often hear people attribute not understanding social cues or being rude or belligerent to, oh, they have autism, they don't know any better. So it's one end, it's an extreme end of, but both of those are still independent. They're both levels of independence that some people do not have.
Yeah.
So I think the clarity around language, like you, Lamar, I don't think she had any ill intention in sharing. I think if anything, she thought this probably now makes sense. Some of the things, some of the personal struggles she had, because we don't live with her. We don't know her struggles. We don't know what she was dealing with when she's off stage and when she's not singing beautifully, because she has an amazing voice. Right. So it may have made sense to her in a way that she wanted to share because she now has clarity.
Yeah.
But it also, it forces us to have the conversation so that we're able to protect the dignity and not be gatekeepers of diagnoses, but still able to protect the dignity of people who may not be low support, and still say that their experience is valid and not just completely erase them and center autism on the experiences of people who can articulate their experience.
Yeah. And I'll just be honest with you, very early on and this is why I say that for her, that, I think there's some aha moments for her. I think maybe, again, she was given that language, and maybe the person who diagnosed her meant that the part that she was challenged with, be it socially or whatever it was, that part may have been severe for her and may have explained why she couldn't perform a certain task.
Yeah.
In that area. So like I said, for me, it was social, right? There were certain aspects of socialization where I really struggled. I wouldn't use severe or profound because I think it paints a picture of my entire experience, right? My entire experience with autism is not severe or profound to the extent to where I cannot live independently. But socially, yes, there was definitely some challenges that I had that actually did prevent some things from being able to be consistent. Like, before I became a pastor full time, I don't know that I held a job for longer than 2 years, because that's when my capacity, the social demand started to exceed my capacity. Like, I could fake and mask a lot of things. But after about a year or so, people started picking up on stuff. And then I might have been able to buy myself another year before, because we live in a world that's social, and getting jobs and keeping jobs, to be honest with you, is dependent on people liking you.
It is.
It didn't matter how good I was at the job. Now, when I became a pastor, I became, or at least in a full-time capacity, I had a little bit more control over that. But even that was hard, because in the South, church is a very social environment. And so earlier you talked about being called a butthole. I actually think in Disability in the Church, I told a story where someone did call me that, but they didn't use butthole. They used the A word. And this was before I was diagnosed. And it was just because socially, I wasn't able to navigate the social setting very well.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I think the importance of this conversation is really to highlight that language, when it comes to describing autism, isn't just semantics. It really affects advocacy. It affects access to resources. It also affects public perception. And as much as we like to say we don't care what people think or say, public perception, it matters. It matters because it can make or break a mom's experience in the grocery store with her young autistic child. Low support needs or high support needs. It can make or break an autistic adult's experience who may have high support needs, but want to experience a level of independence they never have, or a level 2, a mid person who needs the practice of going to a grocery store or the practice of going to the mall and the independence. I see social media videos all the time of parents practicing with their teenage autistic kids. Okay, you're going to order for yourself this time, and if we have a false perception out there, it can negatively impact how those children and those adults, men, women, and children, I say, how they experience the world. So we have to be careful with inconsistently applying it, because we can unintentionally diminish realities of people who have different support needs.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Unintentionally diminish reality. I like that. Yeah, I want to ask you this as we sort of get ready to wrap up. Like, what would you recommend? Because this is something that is, again, I said earlier, like, for a long time, like, I'm sort of glad that they have the distinctions now to kind of help that. I know some people push back against that. People are free to have their own opinion. I thought it was helpful. I wish it was something that was around when I was diagnosed. But like I said earlier, it's kind of like the wild, wild west out there, where, labels can just be applied to anything. And like you said, self-diagnosis, which is a whole other conversation, Teresa, because I'll just say that self-diagnosis piece doesn't work for every community.
It doesn't. It does not.
And I'll just leave it there. Maybe that's another podcast episode. Because it definitely does not work for every.
It doesn't.
Community, and so there's extreme disadvantage. But like, how do we sort of navigate this without it being sort of the wild, wild west and everybody just kind of claiming what they want and diagnosing themselves and slapping labels on things? And like,
I think we have to get back to really respecting the academy, respecting degrees, universities, scholars. I think we are in a day and age where my opinion is just as valid as a MD. And it's really not. It's really not. The danger, the problem, that the first thing I'll say, I'm trying to figure out how to say it nicely. The first problem I think of when I think of self-diagnosis is the potential to misdiagnose and potentially overlook something that can be addressed or needs to be addressed. Right. Google is wonderful, but I know Google, in comparison to a graduate degree in medicine, psychiatry, psychology, and while it's great to be informed, most people not all, most people are not reading peer-reviewed journals. So they're going by Wikipedia, Google searches, and that can be dangerous. That can be dangerous. The reason I think it's important that we really define and look at the language we use is because I have to admit, Lamar, I used to be one of those people who said, I don't think we should have labels. I don't think that's fair. But then I began to realize that if you are dealing with a high support needs person, you have to prepare. You have to prepare. You have to make sure you have the capacity. You have to make sure you have the resources. There are certain ways that you have to prepare differently for a high support needs person versus a low support needs person. And then if I'm honest, and this one is completely personal, and then I'll let it go, often am approached by people who have very low support needs who say, oh, yeah, I was that way too. Yeah, I started out that way too. But they always had a level of independence, even with the absence of certain skills that some level 3 children never had. They've never had in their short time. And as you all know, we've been here now 4 seasons. I work primarily with children and parents. So I'm talking about kids. There are 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids who've never had a level of independence that a level 1 may say, oh yeah, I was that way too. And you'll be fine. You'll get better, however they want to encourage you. Right. And then you kind of look at it and you say, but you really can't compare the two. It's really like they say, when you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. So let's be careful that we aren't deciding that one autistic person is me and I speak for all of us. So this is the experience.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It happens a lot, actually. And yeah, I was just very careful to try to navigate that when I first was diagnosed, because a lot of the people that I saw giving that kind of advice to people like you were people who didn't even have children. So I'm like, it's one thing to be autistic. It's another thing to also be a parent and know that most good parents will do whatever they need to keep their children safe, to help their children thrive, to help their children. And so to try to make my experience with autism equal to someone's child who may have high support needs, when I don't even have children, to me, that was always something that to be honest with you, I just didn't understand. Like, cause I would watch people say things, and, I stopped doing all that years ago in the comments, but I'm just like,
let me tell y'all a secret. Hardly typical community, hardly typical family. Y'all want to hear a secret? I'm going to tell y'all a secret. Yeah. You get the most advice raising an autistic child from people who do not have an autistic child.
Yeah.
Baffling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that really work? Should you really be doing that? I think you should just do this. Just ignore him. He'll be fine. It's run.
I think people in general just like you said, we don't respect expertise. I talked about this a while back, this sense of where over the course of like COVID and all, I don't want to get too political, but we made expertise something that was considered toxic. And so people thought they could be on the same playing field.
Yeah.
With people who put in, and I've said that too, even about, me having cancer and people telling me to do all these crazy things. I'm thinking, do you realize that I've gone to the top doctors and they're also top tier scientists as well? And what you're telling me to take is not even FDA approved. And it has never come up to any of the doctors.
It never is FDA approved.
And I'm just like, but yeah, you're right. People always have advice about things for which they know not.
Yeah.
So yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen,
here's what I'm going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just going to give us a quick call to action, right? Mark said we're wrapping up in the typical pastor fashion. He's going to have 3 more wrap ups before we wrap up. But this is my wrap up.
You see how she doing me?
Let's be mindful of our words, because language is the foundation of advocacy, understanding, and dignity. And here at the Hardly Typical Podcast, we aren't just building a podcast. We're building a community. Yeah. And you matter. Your experiences matter. And we want to make sure we are giving dignity to your experience.
Absolutely. And so with that, I will say, Hey, man, I'm not going to tell you I'm closing again since she called me out. But we do want to end with just a simple prayer to kind of help us to focus on what we talked about. And I think, we should have an episode, Teresa, about, just some things I also wanted to bring up as it pertains to celebrities and disability and all that. But let's make that another episode because
let's do it next week.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, because there's some more things I want to say. And I think, let's talk about that next week. Listen, fam, let's pray this prayer and just heed the Dr. Lee's words about how we use our words. God of wisdom and justice, teach us to speak with care. Let our words reflect truth, protect the vulnerable, and foster real understanding. May our communities be places where every story is seen, every need is acknowledged, and every person is valued. Amen.
Amen.
So listen, thanks for hanging out with us. The Hardly Typical Podcast, Season 4. As always, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button and share with a friend, and we will see you next week.